A staggering 80% of human-related incidents in these high-risk offshore environments are tied directly to problems with procedures. Not having them, not following them, having procedures that are just plain wrong, or even just misunderstanding them. This isn't just a number. It's a massive warning sign about the real-world cost of getting procedures wrong.
Okay, so, with a problem that big, what's the solution? Where do we even start? Well, it all comes down to creating and, more importantly, committing to really clear, effective operating procedures. But what does that actually mean?
So here's the official breakdown. An SOP is way more than just a to-do list, right? It's a comprehensive guide. It doesn't just tell you what to do, it gets into the nitty-gritty of how to do it safely, pointing out the hazards, specifying the right tools, and outlining all the controls that are in place to keep people safe.
And really, that's what it all boils down to. It's about having one single authoritative source of truth for any given task. Think of it like this clipboard. When everybody's working from the exact same playbook, you get rid of all that dangerous variability and replace it with safe, predictable consistency.
You know, having good SOPs isn't just about ticking a box to keep the regulators happy. Not at all. They are the actual foundation of a safe, efficient workplace. So let's dig into why these things are absolutely non-negotiable. And you can see how all these benefits just kind of stack on top of each other, right? You start with consistent info for everyone. That immediately gets rid of guesswork. And when people aren't guessing, their performance naturally gets better. This whole thing supports your team's existing knowledge, and it becomes this amazing tool for training, all while you're basically capturing the hard-won experience of your entire facility. It's a virtuous cycle, for sure.
All right, so we get why SOPs are a big deal. That's the easy part. But how do you actually build a system that works in the real world? That's where this 5-part framework comes in. Think of it as the blueprint for creating a dependable, rock-solid SOP system from scratch.
So let's just quickly walk through these 5 principles. This is basically our roadmap, okay? We start by building the foundation, then we figure out what we need, then we actually write the procedures, then we use them to make things better, and finally, we make sure they don't get outdated.
Okay, Principle A, maintain dependable practices. Now, this isn't about writing one procedure. It's about building the whole management system around them. You absolutely need a written policy that spells out who's in charge of what, like who gets to write a procedure, who has the final say to approve it. If you don't have those controls, you've just got chaos. And a massive piece of this puzzle is document control. I mean, think about it. An outdated procedure is a dangerous procedure. So you have to have a system that makes sure that the second a procedure is updated, all the old versions vanish. Poof. Only the current approved version should ever be available to anyone.
All right, next up, once you've got that system in place, how do you even know what procedures you need to write? Well, it all starts with a really thorough task analysis. You have to systematically break down every single job to pinpoint exactly where a procedure is needed to keep things safe and consistent. And remember, this isn't just about your normal, everyday operations. A really great SOP system thinks about every phase. What about that initial startup when everything's new? Or a temporary shutdown? Or, and this is the big one, what happens during an emergency shutdown? Every single one of these situations needs its own clear, specific procedure. Okay, now we're at the heart of it, actually writing the procedures. And the goal here is pretty simple. Create documents that are clear, concise, and, this is the most important part, actually usable by the people doing the work who are often under a ton of pressure. And this is just so important. We are not writing a novel here, okay? We should be using simple checklists, plain language, and lots of visual aids, pictures, diagrams, whatever it takes. The clearer and more intuitive you make the procedure, the more likely it is that people will follow it correctly. Every single time. You know, you could argue this is the most important principle of all. Because a perfectly written, beautifully formatted procedure that just sits on a shelf or is buried on some server somewhere, it's completely worthless. The whole point is to get these things into people's hands and make them part of the daily workflow so they actually improve performance. So how do we make that happen? 3 key things. First, all your training has to be based on these official procedures. Second, they have to be easy to get to, right where the work is happening, not locked away in some office. And finally, everyone, and I mean everyone, from the newest person on the floor to senior management, has to be held accountable for following them. And that brings us to the final piece of this puzzle, maintenance. Look, your facility, your equipment, Your processes, they're always changing. It's just a fact. Your procedures have to change right along with them. They have to be treated like living documents, not like they're carved in stone. And that maintenance can't be passive. It has to be an active, ongoing process. It means having a system for managing changes, a simple way to fix errors as soon as they're spotted, and, this is crucial, periodically reviewing every single procedure with the people who actually use them, the operators, to make sure they still match the reality on the ground. Wow, okay. We have covered a lot of ground here. We started with that terrifying 80% statistic, and we walked through a whole 5-part framework. So let's just pull it all together and zero in on the absolute key lessons you need for this to actually succeed. Seriously, if you only remember a handful of things from our chat today, make it these 5. 1, SOPs are all about creating consistency. 2, you need a management system to control them. 3, you have to analyze the tasks before you start writing. 4, they have to be the backbone of your operator training. And 5, you've got to review them and review them often. You get those right, and you're building a real blueprint for safety.
And that's a wrap. So I'll just leave you with this one question to chew on. What's the most critical task in your world? Could be at work, could even be at home, that still relies on, well, on guesswork. Really think about that, because that's probably the place where a clear procedure is needed the most. Thanks for joining me.